URC, what happened in the most recent round? We'll go over the games. I don't know what round it is anymore because they're all different kind of stages of the competition, but we'll go through the games that were played this weekend, end of January. Yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts on the games, a wee bit of controversy. As always, I've seen 4 of the games. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to see the South African games in full. I've caught up on the highlights and the stats. South African games are the hardest ones to get here in New Zealand. Partly it's because I'm being stingy in that the URC South African games are on a separate broadcaster and I have to pay for their full package just to get access to those 2 games a week when they're actually being played. And I can't bring myself to do it. Yeah, but hopefully I can find a way. There's usually alternatives, but my alternatives in recent times have been failing. Anyway, we'll start with the first one, Dragons and Benetton. I did watch this one. I'm not sure it was a classic. Yeah, 13 points apiece. It was a draw. Benetton without a ton of players. Dragons will probably be a bit disappointed they didn't do a wee bit better. Because remember, half the Benetton team, it's 20 plus guys been called up to their Six Nations squad. There was a red card, at the end to Elliot D for a bad clean out, but it was like that late in the game that it didn't really make a difference. What can you say about this? The Dragons errors were pretty frustrating. There was a moment where the ball popped out of the maul, Dragons maul, but Bertrand was looking the wrong way, so he didn't even see the ball pop out. He's still waiting. Where the hell's the ball gone? It was bizarre. Benetton knocked on in their own 22 at one point. That led to Moriarty's try. But Moriarty's try was the second one. Els got the first one through Benetton. That one was a maul try that I thought was kind of good. At least Dragons avoid a yellow card because they were kind of on a warning. So it's one of those ones where if you're going to let in a score, at least let it be a regular score instead of a yellow card and penalty try. So yeah, all things considered, it wasn't too bad. The Dragons did miss a chance to hit a drop goal with about 10 minutes to go, and Benetton tried one as well. It was a pretty awful strike. One of my favourite moments of the game was Dualt Duvanaka, the scrum half for Benetton. When the Dragons tapped it, he read it like a book. He made sure he was back 10 metres, and then when the tap happened, he came flying in and just made a massive hit. So nobody was able to catch him kind of unawares. That was a cool moment. So yeah, 13 points apiece. Nobody can get a win. Benetton probably pretty happy, to be fair, given it was not their full strength lineup. I know everybody's missing players at this point of the season, but anyway, possession and territory are with the Dragons, kind of 56 and 54%. Run meters 387 to 256 again with the Dragons. Defenders beaten 15-4 to the Dragons. Clean breaks 3-2 to Benetton. Wee bit of an ugly game. Misty rain. Some of the handling was a bit tough. Olawafela, 61 run meters, 3 defenders beaten. Helps the lock for Benetton, 15 from 15 tackles, but it was their fly half Albanoras who had 72 run meters and 2 clean breaks. Was the most for the day. So yeah, not anybody's really finest hour in that one. The next one, Ulster and Scarlets, is the one that's kind of marred by a bit of controversy. I didn't watch this one in full. I caught up with the highlights. 27 points to 15, so 4 tries to 2. It's a bonus point win for Ulster. Tries through Curtis Carter, Milanovic, and Gilroy. Gilroy's one will be the most burning one for Scarlets fans. Lee and Matthias for Scarlets getting across the line. I talk about controversy. It's basically the Gilroy tackle on Rogers. My note basically says bloody hell, because it's about as bad a hit in terms of the guy's head flying back that you will ever see. On the highlights, I think they showed a couple of angles, and at first I thought his arm looks like it's coming around to wrap, but then I was just having a chat with the Scarlets fan, and his view was slightly different. So I went back and had another look at it, and the more I look at it, the more it looks like a shoulder charge. It more looks like he's coming in with the shoulder, and then the arm's just going to follow around. So yeah, it's not a good look. It probably could have been a red, but he is dipping a lot. So yeah, but it doesn't look good. It looks about as sickening as you will ever see from a kind of, shoulder to the head contact. It was it was really, really, really quite bad. Scarlets did manage to try their first one during the yellow card, but Ulster got one as well, so it was kind of evened out, which is a bit disappointing from a Scarlets point of view, not to take more advantage of the extra man. Second half, they started exchanging tries to the point that it was 15 points apiece, but after it was 15 points apiece, Scarlets conceded 2 back-to-back ones, and that in this type of game was probably always going to be enough. Doak at one point, still a young man developing, like chose a really good option to go blindside and set up Freddie Burns, who had a nice, Billy Burns, had a nice line break down the left wing that kind of led to a try, so that was kind of good decision making from the young man. To be fair, the hands for the Gilroy try and the build up were pretty phenomenal. So yeah, like I said, that'll burn with Scarlets fans who will say he shouldn't have been on the pitch, but yeah. Run meters 438 to 352. Possession 59-41. They both start with P. Territory 49-51. So the split, Ulster more possession. Scarlets marginally more territory. Scarlets pinged a bit more. 11 penalties conceded to 6. Ryan Combier, the winger for Scarlets, at 66 run meters, 2 clean breaks, 2 defenders beaten. Not bad. Doak, like I mentioned, 64 run meters for Mullen. Got some chance with ball in hand, 58 run meters for him. Matty Ray, 14 from 14 tackles. Hughes, the hooker for Scarlets, 22 out of 23 tackles. Is a pretty big shift, but ultimately that is a loss for Scarlets, and it's another win for the Ulster boys. The next one, the Bulls and the Lions. Again, highlights only for this one. It was very sweet to hear the sounds of Owen Nkamani's voice, because it's been a long time since I've watched any South African rugby. I'm not sure that I would have ever longed for the sound of Owen Nkamani, but yeah, he was on commentary, and I was pretty chuffed to be back watching some South African games, albeit not in full. The Bulls did a pretty bloody good job, to be fair. The Lions seemingly a bit all at sea at times, but I mean, it was 3 points apiece early. Mornay Steyn hit a bloody long penalty. He's pretty good at that. But the Bulls got a maul try. That one was GRAvBEN, or GRAvBEN, I can't remember the correct pronunciation. Someone let me know. And then a bunch of phases. Papier sniped over for one. Botha got one and Forster got one. Forster's one was weird in that Marcel Coetzee was like trucking it up, and it seemed like the ball was going to be stuck with him, but I think Forster ripped it out of his own player's hands and then just powered over for a try. Creel got one in reply for the Lions, but they did have another one denied by the TMO, so they could have had 2, but yeah. It just seemed like it was pretty much dominant for the Bulls. I mean, the stats tell a story. Run meters 318 to 150. Not that often you get more than double. Penalties conceded, though, the Bulls 15 to 11, so that's an area to improve. The Lions... sorry, no, that was the Lions that had more penalties conceded, so that actually makes sense. The Bulls line-out is the one that needs to improve, because they only had 16 from 20, whereas the Lions had 16 from 16. Like, I'm not sure if the ball and play time was a little bit low in this one, but... yeah, there just seemed to be fewer runs in some of the other games. Willem Alberts, 11 from 13 tackles for him. Tamboy, 62 run meters for him. So, yeah, not the best day at the office for the Lions. Good to see some fans there, though. And like I said, Owen Nkamani on commentary. Happy days. The next one was Connacht and Glasgow. I did watch that one. That one was a pretty entertaining game, to be fair. Loads of tries and a good away win for the Warriors. Connacht just can't get any consistency in the ULSvSCA. It's a tough one, and to be fair, Connacht were kind of guilty of some errors. Yeah, giving Glasgow chances at times. It was like 5-0, but then Richie Gray got yellow carded for a tip tackle on Alton Delan. And it was another one where it was probably good, because there was a try through Sammy Arnold where it was like, if they don't get a try, they're probably going to be a yellow card. So one of those ones where you probably you take that. So it's a 15-on-14 try. Connacht did go in the lead, but man, Glasgow interestingly were pretty ruthless. Like they didn't want to go for threes, so they got 2 tries through McLean, 2 through Steyn, who was playing in the midfield. I'm not sure how much he plays there, because I've only really been following the URC kind of week in, week out this year. But yeah, I think it's the first time I've seen him in the mid. Brown got 1, and then Matthews got 1 at the death. So it's it's well and truly easily kind of one for the bonus point. CONvGLA looks sharp. Is this the first time I've seen him playing for Glasgow as well? He's got some serious wheels, so that was kind of pleasing. But yeah, it was interesting because Glasgow seemed to be finding a lot of space in the Connacht backfield. Like I don't know, the back three for Connacht were caught out more than once anyway. They did get another one through Boyle Connacht, but it was not enough in this one. And yeah, the stats also kind of tell a story. 18 defenders beaten to 9 in Glasgow's favour. Glasgow more possession, 54%. More clean breaks, 7 to 1. More run meters, 448 to 352. Their line-out was better, 10 from 12. I should have mentioned Connacht's line-out was really frustrating, 6 out of 10. Like, that's not up to scratch. Tackling percentage, Connacht somehow has 90%, but Glasgow has 95. You don't see much higher than 95, to be fair. Tuipulotu, 18 from 18 tackles. Both fullbacks, 100 plus run meters. Masterson had 17 from 17 for Connacht as well, a losing shift. But yeah, Glasgow really looked pretty sharp. At one point, Glasgow, like, they had the yellow card down for Connacht, and they interestingly opted for the scrum, which I'm kind of a fan of, because, you know, the opposition's going to have a guy less somewhere. But then the scrum kept getting reset time and time again. That's maybe one of those reasons you don't always go for the scrum, because it does eat up a lot of yellow card time. Eventually, they kind of they tapped it because they were getting sick of it. I think they got another advantage and they tapped it again. I think it was Fraser Brown who tapped it when half of his team was already on the ground next to him. So they ended up knocking it on. So Connacht's defence at times did hold pretty well. Maybe that kind of speaks to the tackle stats. But I mean, Connacht's exit was poor, and then they were under the sticks a few minutes later anyway. So, yeah, sometimes their own worst enemies, but you got to give credit to the Glasgow guys. That is a pretty good bonus point win. The next one, the Sharks and the Stormers. Another draw. A weird one where the Stormers get 2 penalty tries. That's unusual, and one of them really deep into the depth. The red at the end of the game. Where'd depth come from? ZEBvMUN also got a try for the Stormers. That one was set up by Gallant, who seemed to have a bit of a magic impact from the bench. The Sharks had 2 tries. Mapimpi and those guys are quite the combo. They've got kind of almost like a telepathic relationship, don't they? The first one was actually a Mapimpi setup for on 3 minutes. It's usually the other way around, right? It's cutting up the midfield and then setting up the man outside him. But this one was the other way around. So 5-0 early. There was another one where Williams popped the ball to and had a really kind of cracking run up the midfield. Real highlight reel stuff, but it didn't lead to any points. Also got a yellow carded, interestingly. The Sharks had too many penalties conceded. But yeah, Chamberlain's boot is the one that mainly keeps the Sharks scoreboard ticking over. He gets a drop goal and some penalties. Fussy has a nice grubber through to Mapimpi. So it's 16 points to 3, I think. Or is it 19-3 at halftime? It's a pretty convincing lead. But yeah, the Stormers, I think I've got these teams run the wrong way. Should be on the other side. The Sharks were at home. The Stormers, they managed to come back into it. They got a penalty try from a maul. That's after the Gallant sets up Willems a try, which was a bit of magic kind of seemingly out of nowhere. The Sharks had a yellow card, and the Sharks had another yellow card to make it 15-13, and then a penalty try on like 81 minutes with Fussy, a deliberate knock on. It's another one of those ones where you may be better off letting them go over in the corner and try to convert it, because penalty try is worth 7. So yeah, weird game. Run meter's pretty low, 173 to 212. Pretty low for both sides. Penalties conceded 15-16. Clean breaks 16 to 3 to the Sharks. Gets 2. Mapimpi gets 2. So those guys are. Did I say 3 to 16? It's 3 to 6. So Mapimpi and have the lion's share of their own. Defenders beaten is 20 to 11 though to the Stormers. Gallant has the number 2 run meters for the Stormers. Despite the fact that he comes off the bench, he gets a clean break, a try assist, and 2 defenders beaten. So talking about impact, he seemed to have a bit. The next one, Munster and Zebre. I watched this one. It wasn't bad. It was pretty determined effort from Munster. Remember, without their Six Nations guys as well, not helped by the fact that they had an injury. Munster, Flannery went off pretty early. But yeah, they kind of had to grind down the Zebre guys over the course of the game. Like the first try was what, 22 minutes, so they had to kind of work it to get them. But they never really looked like in any danger of losing it. It was what, after Goggins won, he goes through like a hot knife through butter, and then like Zebre not straight line-up throw on their own 5-metre line, leading to another Munster try. It's like 22-0, but they did get an intercept through Cronje right before half-time, which was at least something to kind of lift your heads for the Zebre guys. It was 22-7. And interestingly, Zebre opted for 3 with Munster under a bit of pressure in the early second half. Like they hadn't had many chances to put Munster under a lot of pressure. I would have thought when you're 22-7 down, go for the jugular. But they went for the 3 and they got it, so it was 22-10. Yeah, they went for another long penalty about 10 minutes later. They missed that one. And then later, when they had an easier chance, Zebre, to kick for goal, they opted for the touch, and then they ended up getting turned over. So, yeah, it was a weird bit of decision-making, but I guess in hindsight, it's always 2020. Munster got their bonus point try on, like, what was it, 67 minutes through Josh Wycherley. Both the Wycherley boys got on the board. It wasn't pretty, but, you know, close-range stuff. Smash it over, so 29-10. Zebre did have a chance at the end, but Munster's defence held for ages. I wrote they refused to concede, but LIOvBUL did eventually get one, kind of in a roundabout way where the ball bounced off his leg. Yeah, and he just managed to kind of chase it down. So they got a couple of tries. I mean, Munster got O'Donoghue, Goggin, both the Wycherleys and Barron all on the board. So it's not like they didn't rack up some points. They did. 34-17. Bianchi 17 from 18 tackles for the Zebre flanker. Fineen Wycherley 12 from 12. Jack O'Sullivan 52 run meters and 4 defenders beaten. Not bad shift. Run meters 341 to 204. That's to Munster. Defenders beaten is actually 21-20, which is even, and clean breaks 3-4, which is just 1 in favour of Munster. So those areas of the game close, but yeah, Munster just too strong, eh? Too clinical. Zebre, as I said, sometimes the decision making wasn't there, and I don't know. They probably could have done better, but Munster's a tough team to beat, even with all the changes. So yeah, kind of maybe to be expected. The last 2 wins for the Welsh sides. Ospreys got the job done against Edinburgh. Didn't see this one in full. Saw highlights. It was still 0-0 after about 20 minutes. Ospreys got a yellow card and Edinburgh capitalised. Fenter ends up getting 3 tries, which is not bad for a front rower. Yeah, just couldn't stop the big prop, man. Like he got 2 tries during the yellow card period. Like, the second one, it's like he was falling to the ground for an age, and nobody just kind of stopped him as he just burrowed his way over and reached out. So 14-0. Although Ospreys did manage to kick a 3 towards the end of the yellow card period. So it's 3-14, 14-3 at half-time. Which is not a great position to be in at home. But, yeah, the Ospreys had a bit of second half... I don't know, like a bit of pace and offloads about them, so it was pretty slick. It was 10 points to 14 with the first try to Prothero. That's what I mean about the hands, kind of in the build-up to that one. And then, yeah, it was Osprey's turn for a line-out move, because it was Edinburgh that got one of their tries through a line-out move. And, yeah, so they went in front 17 points to 14. It was like different team in the second half, at least from the highlights anyway. Edinburgh did go back in front though, with a penalty. No, it was a try. It was the 3rd try to Edinburgh, but the conversion got charged down, which was maybe a bit of a key moment. There was a no-arm tackle, which led to a miler penalty kind of towards the death, and then another one to make it 23-19. So yeah, Ospreys got the job done, man. I kind of wish I'd watched that one. I probably watched some of the wrong games, but sometimes when you're just seeing kind of what's available on RTE or S4C or TG4 or whatever, you just kind of get what you're given. I probably could have watched it, but yeah. I try to go into the games not knowing the result, so it's just kind of luck of the draw. Run meters 212 to 343. That's in Edinburgh's favour. Ospreys had to make 153 tackles to 63. Honestly, when their defence is on form, Ospreys are a really hard team to beat. It's just when teams manage to break it down, they don't have the firepower seemingly to kind of come back. But defensively, when Ospreys are on form, they are such a hard team to beat. Both sides tackled at 89%, but like I said, 153 tackles to 63. That's massive, and so is that wind outside. Penalties conceded 12-8 to Edinburgh, making more, which is not a good thing. Roots 24 out of 25 tackles is a good shift. Graham 87 run meters in clean break, so that was the top guy for the game. But interestingly, like Edinburgh is really high up in the URC, but failing to get the job done at the Ospreys. Yeah, it's just one of those results. If you're going to be top of the log, you need to be winning games like that. Close, but not quite doable. The last one, Cardiff and Leinster. I did know the result to this one. I try to go into the games blind, but when I heard about this result, I was like, I better watch it. And I know Leinster had to make a ton of changes because, Six Nations, they got a lot of guys out, but still, the Leinster second side is usually stronger than a lot of other sides, and they've still got a bunch of internationals in that side. So I still reckon it's a pretty bloody good win for Cardiff. 29-27. Leinster had the lead early, 3-0 with a penalty. Cardiff's defence had to hold for like the first, 10 minutes? And they got a scrum penalty on their own 5-metre line, which kind of allowed them to exit. They got the first try of the game through Owen Lane, the Lane train. I love that one, man. That was a Jared Evans cross kick to Lane. He's got some wheels, doesn't he? And they went in front, so it was 10-3. But that seemed to wake up Leinster because they immediately hit back through Adam Byrne, who's also got some wheels and can beat some defenders. So by the time we get to half-time, it's 13-10. And I've written a note, how many Cardiff penalties won at the breakdown or turnovers in their own half? It was a lot. They were able to hold and then strike at the right moment to kind of stifle the Leinster attack, which was really pleasing for them. Second half, 48 minutes, Cardiff are leading 19-0, which is pretty nice, with some kicks from the boot. Leinster tapping and going, 5 metres out. I think both of them got yellow carded for ripping it out on the ground when Leinster were kind of hot on attack. And eventually they tapped again, went through some phases and managed to get a try. So 19-17 is back to being game on. And then the kind of regular script of Leinster coming back and dominating seemed to be being followed because they got another try during the yellow card to make it 24 points to 19. And Leinster also denied a penalty by the crossbar on 69 minutes. So kind of a couple of succeeded scoring chances for Leinster. And one just missed. But Amos, sometimes people give Amos a bit of grief. And I know he's not like a big defender, but I mean, on attack, I think you're going to miss that guy when he retires at the end of the year. Amos on 71 minutes. All kind of came from Leinster failing to take a high ball. So it looked like it might have been going to go out, but there were some pretty sick hands from the Cardiff guys. They went in front 26-24. But 74 minutes, Ross Byrne hit a pretty good penalty with 5 to go to make it 27-26. But then right at the death, Ala Alatoa, a high tackle, I think it was on Jared Evans. Initially, the referee, Mike Adamson says, I've got nothing, I think, when the players are screaming for a high tackle penalty. But the TMO obviously gets on the horn and says, you need to give advantage for that one. So they go back for the penalty. Evans asks for the mark. Adamson gives him a mark. They kind of complain that the mark's not the right place, but Adamson still gives him the mark, and Jared Evans says, I'll have a go. And then they do move the mark to a slightly more correct place, which makes it a slightly easier kick, but not an easy kick by any means. And they reckon it's 50 metres. And he nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. The celebrations at the end of the game were like they'd won the bloody trophy, man. That clearly meant a lot to them. And I mean, I guess for the Welsh regions, the Ospreys and Leinster, defeats. So Ospreys win over Edinburgh and Cardiff win over Leinster, you know, is pretty pleasing, because it's been kind of bad news stories over the European campaign. So yeah, that's a pretty big win, and got to be pretty chuffed for the guys. Lane 75 run meters, a clean break, 2 defenders beaten. Turnbull 19 out of 22 tackles. Cardiff outrun Leinster 362 to 333, but it's pretty close in terms of run meters. Clean breaks, they were 8-2. Defenders beaten to Leinster is 25-17. Adam Byrne 5 defenders beaten, 44 run meters. Scott Penny also got a try, 25 out of 26 tackles for him. So yeah, Jared Evans doesn't always strike me as kind of a clutch moment guy, but man, did he do it this time. So really, really chuffed for him. A few of those Cardiff guys not in the Wales squad, eh? Maybe they should be, but anyway, we'll let Wayne Pivac do his job. So yes, goodness me, 25 minutes. A lot of games on this weekend, and certainly some good results. Cardiff and Leinster was certainly a really interesting watch. Connacht and Glasgow was also pretty fun. Yeah, the Benetton Dragons and Munster Zebre games were maybe not quite as free-flowing in terms of the games that I watched. Yeah, Ospreys and Edinburgh seems like it was a bit of fun from the highlights. Likewise, the Sharks and the Stormers. The Lions maybe have some worrying to do about how they're going to be competitive. But anyway, we'll see. It's only 1 week. You guys let me know your thoughts on the games. Obviously, we move attention to the Six Nations, but I think there's going to be more games on because they still need to catch up on all the fixtures that have been disrupted. So we'll kind of see what happens. Fingers crossed I can see some actual South African games at some point soon. But yeah, we'll see. You guys let me know your thoughts on the games, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.